So, according to reports, Forest have put a £50 million bid in for Darwin Nunez from Liverpool. Welcome to your Forest transfer news. Good morning, good evening, or good night. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to your latest Forest update. Coming up in today's episode, I'll talk you through this whole Darwin Nunez story. We'll talk about the finances that Kieran Maguire has released over on how Forest have done in this last year. And don't forget, it's the big day. It's my cup final. It's Forest Man United. We'll have the watch along for you guys tonight, so make sure you are tuned in, and make sure, of course, that you've hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed as well if you're new here, and please do subscribe to our second channel, the Footy Network. Get your score predictions in as well. I'm saying 5-0. I'm done with this Man U team. But anyway, speaking of teams up in the Northwest, there have been some reports, and apologies, haven't had time to do it over the last couple of days with the amount of games and content we've put out, on Darwin Nunez joining Forest. In fact, this article goes a step further and says Forest have already bid on him £50 million. Now, let me read you the article for those of you who haven't heard this. Darwin Nunez' future at Liverpool appears to be increasingly in doubt. Forest have taken the first step in its attempt to sign the Uruguayan striker and have already submitted a formal offer for €60 million, about £50 million. Liverpool manager Arne Slot doesn't have Nunez in his plans for next season. The Dutch coach's lack of confidence in the attacker has opened the door for the departure, and Forest have been the quickest to express an interest. Premier League side is looking to bolster its attack with a top-level goal scorer and believes the Uruguayan could be a key player in the project. It then says, Forest is determined to complete the signing as soon as possible and has already begun talks with Liverpool to finalise the deal. The €60 million offer could be enough incentive for the Anfield club to greenlight the transfer, especially if the player isn't in slots. Blah, blah, blah. Despite Forest's interest, there is still no definitive agreement, and other clubs could join the bidding for the Uruguayan striker. His potential and youth make him an attractive player for several European teams, so the transfer market could bring up more surprises. The coming weeks will be crucial in determining whether Nunez will continue in the Premier League with another shirt, or in new options, if the new option will energize him. Will emerge. Tired. For now, Nottingham Forest appears to be leading the race to sign him. Okay, first thing that everyone needs to know about this has come from Fiagis, or however you pronounce them. They are, without a shadow of a doubt, the worst source on the internet. Like, can you throw enough poo at the wall and some of it will stick? Of course, that can be the case. I don't believe this for a single minuscule second. Okay, the only reason I'm even doing a video on this is because a lot of you have been messaging asking, yo man, is this true? Is this true? Now, are Forest interested in Darwin Nunez is a completely different question to Forest having already put in a bid for £50 million. Look, does it happen outside of transfer windows? Yes, it does. We saw Haaland joining Man City basically before the transfer window was opened a couple of years ago, and then he just walks through the door once the window officially opens. So it does happen. It technically can't happen, but, you know, clubs will be talking. Now, my main reason for poo-pooing this, well, one is obviously where it's coming from, but secondly, Forest cannot for certain yet say that they are in the Champions League, okay? Yes, it's looking likely. Don't say jinx arena in the comments, but you can't commit to a £50 million striker and then, God forbid, we don't end up in Champions League or fall out of Europe or whatever it might be. That would be suicide business for a start. Thirdly, £50 million for Darwin Nunez is a complete and utter rip-off. Now, I don't even think Liverpool would accept £50 million, and I'll tell you why. Because in January, an offer came in for Nunez to go to Saudi for about 70 million, and that got rejected. I don't know the exact details of how much Liverpool paid on him. I just remember what the quotes were, excuse me, back when he joined. And it was talks about 80 million, whether that's a package deal, whether they paid 60 up front and then 20 million in add-ons. I don't know. I don't really care. But Liverpool want to recoup a lot of money. Now, do I think he's leaving Liverpool? Yes, I think he is. I mean, the Liverpool fans hate him. There is still a segment of them that see him as a bit of a cult hero. A bit like they had with Origi. And we had Origi, and we all know how that worked out last season. So I think despite what Liverpool will price him at, Darwin Nunez is not worth that money. Now, could he be worth that money? Yes, is my answer to that. There is a player within him. Over when he was at Portugal, he was bagging in the goals left, right and centre. And that's why he got that big money move to Liverpool. But it just hasn't worked out for him there. And I think he's a player that's completely lost his confidence. Now, this sounds familiar, doesn't it? Chris Wood, for example, £19 million from Newcastle, couldn't get a game there, couldn't score goals, comes to Forest, stinks the house out under Cooper, and then Nuno will fix it, steps in, and suddenly turns him into a goal-scoring machine. And I get the sentiment, because I've seen a lot of you, and get your comments in, would you take Nunez? And if you would take him, is it because of what you've seen Nuno do with Chris Wood? Now, I've been thinking about this one, and if it was 25 mil, or if it was a season-long loan with an option to buy, then yeah, I would take him. But if it's £50 million plus to get him from Liverpool to Forest, no thank you very much. Could I see Nuno fixing him? Yes. But just because Nuno has fixed Chris Wood, it does not necessitate that the next striker through the door is going to be fixed. You could argue, well, what's Nuno done with Taiwo? By that logic, Taiwo should have been scoring, 30 goals a season because he was scoring under Steve Cooper. So why hasn't it worked with Taiwo? Nuno is a miracle worker, but he can't do every miracle. Now, I agree with a part of that article where it says he is young, he is athletic. I think he's quite quick as well. But from what I've seen of him, and I've seen a lot of him, that finishing, man, he just hasn't got it. His finishing is appalling. It really is. And I'm not against this, don't get me wrong. It has to be the right price. It has to be one of those punts that if it fails, all right, 25 mil, not a big deal, okay? But if it's at 50 mil, no, we can't. And the main reason is that 50 mil bracket, it gets you very close to a Gyökeres or an Osimhen or a Sesko or one of those players. And that would make more sense to me, getting a player who's in form, who has street cred, who has rep, bit of aura about them, to a fixer-upper project. And that's kind of where I am with Nunez. If he comes, cool. It's not my money, it's Marinakis' money at the end of the day. I'll back him and I could see him working. But I just think there are more viable options right now. What are your guys' thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments. All right, so let's touch on the finance stuff just for a little bit. And as the financial things, I forgot what they're called. Reports. I literally can't think of the word. Tell me in the comments. Have been released. And our mate Kieran Maguire has been hot on the case and been digging through the numbers, and he's been tweeting out some interesting stuff. So Forest have made an operating loss of £77 million in 23-24. But, and I'm quoting him here, a spectacular year in terms of player sales has turned this into a £12 million profit. Forest have made over £100 million in player sales. And you know what? For a minute, I was like, have we? And I was thinking, who the hell have we sold for that much? Well, the key thing here is that obviously the Brennan Johnson money went into that financial year cycle because it got kicked out when it came to the whole PSR case against us. So that 48 million of pure profit went in there. And then don't forget, we had Mangala as well going to Lyon for like 28 odd million pounds. You had the likes of Karte going. I think that one falls in there as well. Vlachodimos going to Newcastle for 22 million. I remember we broke that to you and people were like, shut up, 22 million. And then there was one more. Who was the other one? There was another one. with a bit of cash. I've literally gone blank. Mangala. Anyway, basically Forest have made 100 odd million. And that's really, really good. Now, is that sustainable? Of course not, because you can't just keep selling players and players and players. You've got to build the squad out. But to do that with fringe players, or players that weren't getting a look in the case of the goalkeeper, that is fantastic business. And on top of that, Kieran's also put out that, as we've told you throughout the year, Marinakis has been wiping debts clear left, right and centre. So he's written here, Forest owner Marinakis has put in 98 million in 23-24 after 87 million in 22-23. Loans now mainly converted into shares, which do not have to be repaid. So what we're looking at there, about 185 million pounds that Marinakis has chucked into Forest and just said, here you go, I love the club, I don't want the money back. And for me, this is why I love the guy so much. Not just because, you know, he's paying money and what have you. It's the fact that he cares. As you guys know, I do a lot of different podcasts with other YouTubers. Shout out to all of them. And barring, I'd say, Man City and Newcastle, and to a certain extent Villa, every other club that's within that kind of top 6 to 8 to 10, whatever it is these days, hates their owners. Because their owners don't care. Especially like American owners, you see FSG, you see the Cronkiers at Arsenal, you see the Glazers at Man United. They all hate their owners because their owners are in it for either dividend profit, which in the case of Manchester United, you got FSG and the Cronkiers who have other sports interests in America and are probably just looking to build up the value of, you know, Arsenal and Liverpool respectively, and then sell it on for a profit maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And I actually think all of them are waiting for the Super League because they think the valuation of their clubs will go sky high. And when it comes to their fans, they see that the success for those clubs or their owners is that they finish in the top 4, get the Champions League money, move on. You got the Club World Cup that Man City and Chelsea are going to. They're going to earn something stupid like 80 to 120 million pounds for being in the tournament, and more so if you win it. So that's all they care about. Whereas Marinakis, don't get me wrong, he's obviously a businessman, but I don't see the Glazers waiting in the tunnel for their players to come in to congratulate them and hug them after a victory. I don't see FSG running onto the pitch, kicking off about a refereeing decision. I see that with my owner, man. I see that with my owner. And long may he stay at Forest. So in essence, look, we will do a proper breakdown of the finances. I'm hoping to get Kieran on towards the end of the season once Champions League's confirmed, so he can explain to us all the ins and outs and the financial side of what it will mean to Forest. If you want that, make sure you've hit the like button so I know that interests you. But it's just a real excuse, and I'll take any excuse just to big up Marinakis. And what a great job he's doing. How are you guys feeling about the Greek father? Let me know in the comments down below. That brings you up to date with your latest Forest news. Don't forget, we got the watch along tonight, Forest versus the Scum. We'll be kicking that off half an hour before the game, so tune in for that. Go check out the additional videos we've done over the week on this channel, and please subscribe to the second channel over on the Footy Network. And if you haven't already, hit that like button. Make sure you're subbed if you're new. We'll see you tonight for the big game. Come on, you Reds. 5-0, 5-0. Let's do it.